should Australia introduce an age cutoff for voting, considering that elderly voters will not get to see the long-term consequences of their actions? And furthermore, should there be an age cap for politicians?
Anne's face. I'm not going to go.
Where did we get these audiences from?
I'm going to put this one to Leo. What do you think, Leo? So an age cutoff for voting. We're talking older. The older you get, should you be cut off at some point?
Look, I mean, number one, I don't think that'd happen. Number two, I just think, given the amount of, varied views, and I get the broader consensus is that at this stage, older people are more conservative. But I guess given the broader, the amount of broad views, and also the fact that while there might be some people who aren't very politically engaged, there could be I'm sure there are politically engaged, very politically engaged people 80, 85, 90 and older.
Mm-hmm.
And so to cut it off, I just don't think, would be fair on them. And then in regards to an age cap for politicians, I mean, I don't know if that'd have much effect because, at least in this country, politicians do seem to retire more than, say, the US, where there's like current representatives in their Congress who are in their 90s right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's not many politicians who, I can't see never retiring except maybe Bob Catter.
Will, did you have thoughts? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about, I might be open to having an age limit on politicians here in Australia, because I think we can see what's going on in the US. We need a bit of young blood in the mix. But in regards to restricting the voting of everyday citizens, of elderly people, what I would say is I think that elderly people, government plays a vital role in their lives, whether it's healthcare, end of life, government welfare, all of those services are crucial to those individuals, and they should have a say in whatever government is in power and the policies that ultimately will affect them quite profoundly and will affect their healthcare, will affect their livelihood and affect, quite honestly, their last years on this earth. I think it's incredibly important that we preserve and we make sure that they retain the right to vote.
Yeah. Well, let's flip it a little bit though. All right, so what about then 16-year-olds who are going out to work, many of which I'm sure are in this room, 16, 17-year-olds, do we think then, by that same argument, that they should be able to vote?
Yes.
Or yes?
Yes, absolutely. I think in terms of democracy as a concept, voting rights, it should be a question of how many people can we feasibly add to that right, rather than how many people who are we taking it away from. I think if we have more of the population voting, that's a better thing. As someone who was campaigning as a school striker around elections and about policy from the time I was 14, I've done 2 election cycles without being able to vote and have been very educated on the topics and the politicians to an extent that a lot of adults weren't. But I don't think that means they shouldn't get to vote. I think we've seen the issues and the horrific drawbacks that happen when we take away anyone's voting rights or try to restrict them in any way. It's not the right thing to do. If anything, I think we should move the voting age lower, absolutely.
Can I have a vote in the audience? Put your hand up if you do think that we should lower the voting age in Australia to, say, 16. Do you want to also vote in the referendum? If you could, yes? Yeah. So that's a lot of people here, and you have had this question put to you before, and I know that you sort of hosed it down, basically, that you weren't you didn't think actually that many 16, 17-year-olds were interested in this. Is this changing your mind a little?
Not really, no, to be honest. And I'll tell you why. Because I do think we need to change the conversation a little bit. This idea that voting is the kind of the marker of democratic and political participation. I think what we've got here is a panel that demonstrates you can be politically active, you can make change, you can have more impact than somebody who has absolutely no interest in politics and goes to the ballot box every 3 or 4 years and maybe even donkey votes. I think we've got to separate between the kind of formal citizenship of the right to vote and active participation and active political participation. And as, thank you, and as the Minister for Youth, I want to ensure that I encourage, not be the voice for young people, because God knows I'm not young, but I want to ensure that young people feel that they can have political participation, feel that they can have a voice, feel that they can make a change. Look at the change the young people made when they took to the streets for climate action. It was a huge change, and many of them weren't voting young people. So I don't think that voting is a marker of the ability to change politics or change policy or be politically active. You have so many other ways to do that, and young people are absolutely amazing at being able to do that. And that's what I want to encourage.